Hello and welcome. So, we were doing evolution. We have already done the first part where we saw how operant Haldan's theory was proven by Miller-Urey's experiment on the chemogeny, that is, chemical origin of life. Today, we'll just see what is the meaning of this chemogeny in further details, and we'll see biogeny and cognogeny also. Now, what are these words? We'll see that today. So let's start. So we have done the origin of life. Now we know life has originated 4 billion years ago. But how? How from this earth the life has originated? This part we are going to do it today. So let's see. Now there are some important views of the origin of life and modern concept of origin of life. This is the exact terminology that is given in the ISC scope of syllabus. So what they mean, it is not very clear. So we have tried to include whatever points, whatever theories we can get hold of in this particular topic. Now let's see the first one. Now see, there is 3 terms actually: chemogeny, biogeny and cognogeny. These 3 terms, it was given by the scientist Lederberg. Now he said that this origin of life from here to here, that has happened by it has happened in 3 parts. These 3 parts were the chemogeny, the biogeny and the cognogeny. And finally the life thrived as it is now. Alright, so this thing from how the life has come to earth is divided by Lederberg into these 3 types. So 3 stages rather. The first one is chemogeny. According to him, the gases in the primitive atmosphere that was there, that is the hydrogen, methane, all those gases, they started clumping together by some kind of chemical reaction, which we are unsure of what is exactly the reaction. But the reaction happened and there was also some energy. Who was to give that energy? It was the lightnings, the UV rays, the sun rays and the heat. So all these things together helped in the formation of first simple organic molecules from the simple inorganic molecules. Now this reaction, this part was proven by the Miller-Urey's experiment. The Miller-Urey's experiment proves that this part was possible. Alright. Next we are going to see this organic molecules which we saw in the Miller-Urey's experiment. These organic molecules, they in the presence of heat started clumping together further and they formed complex organic molecules. Now these complex organic molecules included the macromolecules. Now these macromolecules were the first macromolecules that can have formed is a proteinoid. Rather, it's like a protein-like structure, so it is called a proteinoid. So it's a protein-like structure. So these steps are known as the chemogeny or the chemical basis of origin of life. Basically, life is originating, according to this theory, that life is originating from simple inorganic molecules. Simple inorganic molecules, simple inorganic molecules, simple organic molecules and then complex organic molecules. So that is what this theory states about chemogeny. Next we are going to be seeing this one. So I'll just magnify it. Here we are going to be seeing those molecules, those proteinoids that was there in chemogeny, they started further clumping together. The proteinoids along with the polysaccharides, they are going to be forming some structures which was known as the coacervates by Oparin. Now again, why this scientist's name has been included, because they have told the important views on the origin of life. So we are including the people who gave those views. Alright. So the proteins along with the polysaccharides together formed a structure called the coacervates. And this mixture of proteins that was there, this particular mixture of proteins was known as the microspheres. And this term microsphere was again given by Sidney Fox. So how the structure looked like? The structure may have looked like this, where there is a covering, outer covering like this, and inside it we have the microspheres. The microspheres are the proteins. Then we saw that these microspheres, inside them, the microspheres, that is the proteins, they may have undergone some kind of reaction. Because of this reaction, there may have been the formation of RNA. It is said that RNA has been formed first, and that RNA was acting like a enzyme. So it was acting like a ribozyme. RNA which acts like enzyme is known as a ribozyme, and this theory is known as the RNA walled hypothesis. Next, we are going to be seeing the RNA and DNA clumping, coming together, and this RNA from RNA we are getting DNA and all these things. Finally, we are going to be seeing the proteins that were there already, the proteins with RNA or DNA, whatever they are, with the nucleic acids. They are going to be the nucleoproteins, and they are going to be forming the first kind of gene. Alright, the kind of genes that we have, the genetic world that we are having, that was started over here. Then this nucleoproteins, this coacervates with nucleoprotein and a surface membrane. So we are actually seeing everything is happening inside this coacervate, right? So inside the coacervate we are seeing the microspheres are there. Inside the microspheres, the proteins may have reacted with each other. Either the proteins have polymerized with each other to form further complex structures, or they may have reacted with each other and have formed the RNA. From RNA we got DNA, but now we are seeing there is a surface membrane also around this nucleoproteins that is formed inside the microspheres. So these structures were the first cellular kind of structure. This first cellular kind of structure will be known as the protocell or the protobionts or eubionts. These are just different terms given to the same thing, that is a primitive kind of prokaryotic cell. A primitive prokaryotic cell. Now from that primitive prokaryotic cell came the first prokaryotic cell. The first prokaryotic cell, from there we get the eukaryotic cell. Now eukaryotic cell also had its own pathway of evolution. For example, the first organisms that were there, they couldn't make their own food, neither they can use up the sunlight to make their own food. So they were actually feeding on something else. So they have to make their own food, but they have to depend on something else for their food. That's why they are heterotrophs, and basically they are depending on chemicals for their food, so they are known as the chemoheterotrophs. Now slowly the chemoheterotrophs somehow developed some way by which they can now make their own food with the help of chemicals itself, and they were known as the chemoautotrophs. And finally came the photoautotrophs, which instead of using chemicals to make their food, they started using the energy of the light, and using that light energy, or specifically the sunlight's energy, it was started to make the food. When it started to make its own food by this process, it can evolve oxygen. So there was an evolution of oxygen in this path. Since there was an evolution of oxygen, now the next part of development can happen. So this kind of process, where there is the biological origin of life, where from the molecules we are getting the first kind of cells, this process, this part is known as the biogeny. This whole thing is known as the biogeny. Alright, now here we are seeing this part here, from prokaryotic cell to eukaryotic cell, this whole transition that is happening, it didn't happen all of a sudden. There were a series of reactions. Okay, now the thing is, these are all theories. It is not known for certain. It is all on the basis of experiments that were done. Alright, even this Oparin and Fox, this microspheres and coacervates, they were also made in the lab. It was made, a crude structure, a primitive atmosphere was made, and on that basis something or the other, the reactions has happened, and on that basis his theories have been given. It is not known for sure. Alright, It can be confirmed in that way. Now, anyway, so prokaryotic cells we are getting, but how this first cell have evolved? How exactly from that first cell we get the eukaryotic cell? From the primitive prokaryotic cell, how we are getting the present eukaryotic cell? Now, the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell is the nuclear membrane. So slowly the membrane could have formed because the lipids were also there. There were formation of lipids also, and they were forming the membrane. But then there's complex cell organelles also. Now, how have they come into existence? So then all these theories have to be clarified. All these things has to be clarified. So there was a theory called the endosymbiotic theory. So according to that, there was an ancestral prokaryote. In the ancestral prokaryote, there was just the nucleic acid and there was a covering outside, like we see in the coacervates. The coacervates is the next, in the next step it is forming the ancestral prokaryote. Okay, the coacervates are primitive to the prokaryotic cells. Now, from this ancestral prokaryotes, the plasma membrane itself, the plasma membrane, the outer structure, this outer membrane, whatever it is, the outer membrane started to come inside. They started to enfold inside. There's an enfolding over here. See, you can see the enfolding is coming inside, is going inside, and this enfolding is coming together and clumping around the nucleus. So there is a clumping around of it in the nucleus. So there is a not nucleus specifically, clumping around the naked DNA. This is a naked DNA or RNA or whatever it was, but it is that mostly it is DNA only. That is the thing. Now, around the DNA, there is a membrane kind of enfolding coming in. So this membrane kind of enfolding gave rise to the nucleus that we see now. So there is a nucleus which is having now a membrane. But then the question arises, from where we have got the complex cell organelles. The complex cell organelles, for example, the mitochondria. How could have that come? Say the mitochondria, say this is one heterotrophic bacteria. Now this heterotrophic bacteria started engulfing the other, not bacteria, I'm sorry, it is just a heterotrophic cell. So it started to engulf some other heterotrophic or autotrophic organisms that it can get hold of. So when it started engulfing, so for example, maybe it engulfed this yellow color structure first. This yellow color structure. This structure maybe can use oxygen to make its own energy. So it can actually make its own energy. So this got engulfed by this bacteria and it stayed within the bacterial cell. Oh, sorry, not the bacteria. Again, I'm saying bacteria. It is not bacteria. It is just a cell. Okay. So it got engulfed inside the cell, and the cell, instead of digesting this yellow color structure, it made it retain inside its body. It did not digest a thing. So it retained in the body in the form of structures like this. These structures were now known as the mitochondria. So, in your lower classes, you have heard that mitochondria is a semi-autonomous organelle. Means it has its own DNA, RNA, proteins, etc. So, when it is having its own DNA or it is semi-autonomous, that means it can make its own protein. It does not depend on the cell or the nucleus. So, there is a good chance that maybe this structure was itself a self-sufficient bacteria, but it by chance got engulfed by a bigger organism, by a bigger cell, and that cell, instead of digesting it, just kept it inside its body in the form of a new cell organelle. That's how the mitochondria came into existence. So when mitochondria came into existence, the organism started to make its own energy. It can synthesize its own energy. Now the next question comes, that how the chloroplast came into existence. So maybe there was a cyanobacterium like they have shown over here, or maybe any kind of photoautotrophic structure. This photoautotrophic cell, they again got engulfed by that bigger cell, and this bigger cell by chance, instead of digesting again like mitochondria, it has kept it inside its body in the form of a cell organelle. Now even chloroplast is also semi-autonomous. That means it has its own DNA, RNA and protein. So basically it is proving that this is how these chloroplasts stayed inside and got retained inside the body of the cell, of this cell. So basically one cell is engulfing another cell, and that's how the cell is forming its own cell organelle. So instead of engulfing and eating it up, digesting it, it is just keeping it there in the form of a new structure. That new structure remains over there in a symbiotic association. So it is known as endosymbiosis. Endo means inside, symbiosis means to live together without harming each other. Instead they are helping each other. So here also they are just staying together, they are with each other, they are in a symbiotic relationship with each other, and they are not harming each other. So that's how the different structures came together and formed the first ancestral eukaryotic cell. So here we can see how the chemoheterotrophs, they couldn't make its own food. Then the chemoautotrophs, they could make its own food but couldn't use the sun's energy. But finally in the photoautotrophs, that means the ones which is having the chloroplast, they can use the sun's energy to make its own food. Now this is the last part. So here we saw oxygen has been formed. Now we are going to be seeing cognogeny. After the oxygen has formed, there are formation of new cells. The cells started to bud. So there was a budding kind of thing started happening in the coacervates. So here the coacervates. So here the coacervates now, or the microspheres now, can do budding. So by some kind of asexual reproduction, they started to form new cells. So when they started to form new cells, now these new cells needs to coordinate with each other. They need to talk to each other so that they can survive together. So when they started to coordinate with each other, they started signaling each other. There was a cell communication and signaling amongst themselves, because of which the unicellular structures started to clump together and form multicellular structures. So when there were formation of multicellular structures and there is a kind of communication evolving in between them, they started to clump together having same functions. The groups of cells which were having same functions, they started to clump together. So when they were coming together and they started responding, so they formed the first tissues, and from tissues we get organs, then organ systems, and then we finally got the multicellular organisms. So most probably this is how it has happened. Now there are many theories, but this is the most accepted theory for now, that there are three stages of evolution, that is chemogeny, biogeny and cognogeny. And finally in the cognogeny we are seeing there is a cell communication. This is the ultimate thing, when the cells started to communicate, when there is a mechanism of perception, expression and communication between cells, we can easily deduce that the cells can easily come together to form the higher levels of multicellular organisms. So that's all. Thank you. So now we have seen chemogeny, biogeny and cognogeny. We have seen that in details, the steps. Now we are going to be seeing some terms in details which you have studied over here, like proteinoids and all these terms. Similarly, there were some terms like coacervates, microspheres. So we'll just see those terms. So here we have seen all these things also: effect of oxygen, abiogenesis, biogenesis, O'Poien-Hadlin theory, Miller and Urey's experiment to explain the O'Poien-Hadlin theory. We are also now going to see the definition of some terms. Now protobionts. The term protobionts means that the ancestral prokaryotic cells which were unicellular and had naked DNA, this kind of structure was known as protobionts, or the primitive prokaryotic cell, ancestral prokaryotic cell. They had a protein manufacturing machinery, they had a mode of energy liberation and its utilization. Now, when these protobionts are only made up of polypeptides, that means the primitive proteins, the protein structures which are not yet functional. So, those primitive proteins, the polypeptide containing structures of protobionts are known as microspheres. We have seen that, like in the coacervids, there were small round structures inside the coacervids. These small round structures were groups of proteins. That groups of proteins were known as the microspheres. Now, there are also protobionts which were made of lipids. Then we are going to call it the liposomes. Okay. Now, this lipids were generally forming the outer covering of the structure. So, since it was forming the outer covering, it has to be also making itself waterproof. Okay, because lipids are hydrophobic in nature. So if they are hydrophobic in nature, they have to have a repulsion property by which they can actually escape the water. So that's why there came the formation of micelles, where the lipids like this, they were coming together. These are known as this is the way they actually are arranged. This is the outer layers, this is the inner part. So this outer inner part were having this head part was actually made up of a substance which is glycerol. Basically it is actually going to be waterphilic, okay, hydrophilic in nature. It won't be repulsed through water, so it can easily be interacting with water. That's why they are always outside facing the outer parts, and whereas this inside part, which was hydrophobic in nature, they were trapped inside so that they don't interact with water. And this way they are forming structures like round structures like this. So I'm just drawing it like this. So this round structure, this layers in the cell membrane chapter, we have seen how they are forming. So that's kind of layer which was the liposomes. Okay, so this structures, micelles, they were known as the liposomes. Micelles are nothing but when the lipids are forming a round structure where the hydrophobic ends are inside and the hydrophilic ends are there outside. These are the hydrophilic ends, and inside we have the hydrophobic ends. Next we have the coacervids also. The coacervids are these structures which had the polypeptides, which had the nucleic acids, which had also the polysaccharides. So it is having everything together. We are going to call it the coacervids. So protobionts and coacervids difference we have understood. Basically, if I see, they are of higher levels. Microspheres are small structures with the proteins. When they are coming together in one group bounded by a membrane, that membrane is the liposome. If it is only lipids are there, then we just call it liposome. If I have the membrane, lipids, I have the nucleic acids, I have the polypeptides, all this together, we are going to call it the coacervids. So that's all. Thank you.